At 3 a.m., Emma's phone lit up, and her heart jumped. It wasn't Liam's name. It was silence broken by an unknown message that read, "He's with me tonight." She froze, her breath heavy, eyes wide, as if the ground had split. The room around her felt colder, shadows stretching like accusations. Emma whispered to herself, "No, it can't be true," but her trembling hands betrayed her. She replayed every unanswered call, every excuse Liam had given, every night she had stared at the blinking screen waiting for his words. The truth pressed harder than her heartbeat, each second louder, crueler. Her world wasn't just cracking, it was collapsing, and she didn't know if she wanted to scream or vanish. Emma tried to call Liam again, her voice shaky as she whispered, "Please pick up." The call rang endlessly before slipping into silence. Her chest tightened. She replayed every memory of him promising, "I'll always answer," and now the emptiness mocked her. The walls of her room pressed in closer, her loneliness amplified by the unanswered ringing. She thought of the distance between them, thousands of miles, oceans apart, yet his silence felt heavier than any ocean. A sharp ache told her something had already changed, something she didn't want to face. The silence on the other side of the call screamed louder than words. Emma remembered Sarah's warning, "If someone wants to talk, they will." Emma had defended Liam then, but her own defenses crumbled now. Her body shook as she ended the call, staring at the darkened screen. She whispered, "Why not me? Why not tonight?" She had given him her trust, her nights, her hope, yet at this moment she felt abandoned. The truth was sharp. She was waiting for someone who wasn't waiting for her. Emma pulled the blanket over her knees, trying to shield herself from the cold truth. She remembered the way Liam used to stay awake with her, laughing at silly things, promising distance was only temporary. But now, his silence echoed like betrayal. Her whisper cracked. Was it ever real? She wanted to scream, but fear silenced her. She feared the answer, feared she wasn't enough, feared he had found someone else. The night pressed down on her like a weight, suffocating her with loneliness. Her phone buzzed again, but not with Liam's name, just an empty notification that mocked her longing. Emma clutched it tighter, whispering, "Why won't you come back to me?" Her mind spiraled, imagining Liam laughing with someone else, his voice warm for another. She buried her face into her knees, the ache too sharp to contain. Her world had narrowed to one screen, one man, and now the silence left her shattered. The night no longer held hope, it was just hours of waiting for a call that would never come. Morning sunlight crept into Emma's room, yet the weight of last night lingered heavy. She clutched her phone like a lifeline, staring at the silent screen. She remembered the first time Liam told her, "Distance can't break us." That promise had been her anchor, the reason she endured endless nights waiting. Emma whispered, "You made me believe," her voice breaking. Every message, every late-night call had stitched her life together. She had built her days around him, turning loneliness into hope. Yet now, the silence mocked her faith. The ache wasn't just missing him. It was the fear that she had been clinging to an illusion all along. Emma scrolled through old photos, each one a reminder of promises once alive. She saw Liam's smile on the screen, the way he once looked at her through pixelated calls. Her heart tightened as she whispered, "Why can't it still be us?" She remembered nights when his laugh had carried her through exhaustion, when his voice had been enough to make oceans feel like nothing. Every memory fought against the reality she now faced. She wanted to believe love was stronger than silence, stronger than suspicion, stronger than distance. But a bitter truth whispered back, maybe love wasn't enough if only one heart was fighting for it. Her friend Sarah had always warned her, "Emma, you give too much." But Emma believed giving was love. She stayed up through exams, skipped sleep, rearranged her life just to match Liam's time zone. "I thought sacrifice meant proof," she whispered. Every compromise had been worth it, she told herself, until now. The nights she stared at the screen waiting weren't just wasted hours, they were pieces of her heart she would never get back. Sarah's words echoed like thunder in her mind. Maybe she hadn't been sharing love. Maybe she had been surrendering herself. Emma's mother knocked gently on the door, asking if she was okay. Emma forced a smile. "I'm fine," though her heart screamed otherwise. Family disapproved of her long-distance devotion, reminding her she deserved someone present, not a voice through a phone. Yet Emma had defended Liam every time. She had believed that love was about faith, about waiting. But now, their warnings felt less like interference, and more like prophecy. Emma whispered to herself, what if they were right? The thought stung sharper than the silence. She wasn't just fighting distance. She was fighting doubt planted by the people who loved her most. Emma walked to the window, staring out at the city bathed in late afternoon light. She whispered Liam's name like a prayer. She remembered his promise, "One day, we'll close the distance." That dream had kept her alive through endless lonely nights. But now the silence made her wonder, was the dream hers alone? She pressed her forehead against the glass, heart aching for proof he still cared. She wanted a call, a message, a sign that she wasn't invisible. The truth cut deep. Her love was loud, but his was fading into quiet shadows. The silence stretched into days, not hours. Emma typed, "Are you okay?" But the screen stayed empty. She whispered, "You promised I'd never feel alone," clutching her phone like it held her heartbeat. She remembered how Liam once called her at dawn just to say, "I couldn't sleep without hearing your voice." That man felt like a ghost now. Every unanswered message was a wound that wouldn't close. Her mind betrayed her with visions of Liam laughing in someone else's presence, while she sat in a room where even the walls echoed loneliness. Her love, once a gift, now felt like a cage she couldn't escape. At last, Liam replied with only 2 words, "Busy now." Emma read it again and again, as though staring harder would reveal the warmth missing between the letters. She whispered, "Too busy for me," remembering how he once said, "You're my priority, always." The memory hit her like betrayal. She tried to type a reply, but her fingers froze. Every word she wanted to send, her hurt, her love, her fear, felt like it would push him further away. The truth was crushing. She had become an afterthought in a life she once believed she was the center of. Emma pressed the call button again, heart hammering with every ring. "Please just talk to me," she whispered into the silence. The line cut off, and her body slumped forward. In her mind, she saw Liam surrounded by friends, laughter spilling through a room she couldn't enter, or worse, his arm around someone else. Distance was no longer measured in miles, but in secrets and silence. Emma murmured, "Am I losing you?" She hated the sound of her own desperation. She hated how she had become someone begging for love, when once Liam had begged her never to doubt him. Sarah's voice on the other end was steady, almost too steady. "Emma, this isn't love. It's hurting you." Emma forced a laugh that cracked. "He just needs time," she whispered, though her hands shook as if betraying her own lie. Sarah sighed. "You're drowning for someone who won't even throw you a rope." Emma's throat tightened. Sarah had warned her before. If he wanted to, he would. Emma wanted to defend Liam, but the words stuck. She realized her loyalty wasn't noble. It was desperation dressed as devotion. Yet to admit it out loud would mean watching her world collapse. Scrolling late into the night, Emma's breath caught when she saw it. A photo of Liam smiling beside another woman. His arm casually close to hers, his eyes alight in ways they no longer shone for Emma. Her stomach twisted. "Who is she?" she whispered. Was she just a friend? Or the reason behind every busy now? Emma slammed her laptop shut, but the image clung to her mind like a cruel ghost. The distance wasn't ocean or time, it was betrayal, raw and real. Love had once been her shelter, but now it was a storm tearing her apart from the inside. Emma sat frozen before the laptop, her eyes locked on the photo, until the colors blurred into a haze of betrayal. Her whisper cracked. "She's real, isn't she?" Memories of Liam's fading warmth hit her like breaking glass. Every vague excuse, every hollow "I'm tired" now carried new weight. It wasn't time zones that had pulled him away. It was someone else's smile. Her throat burned as she whispered, "All this time, I thought I wasn't enough." Tears spilled faster, tracing down her cheeks, but she didn't wipe them away. The silence around her wasn't just emptiness anymore, it was proof. She hadn't lost a battle to distance. She had lost to another heartbeat. Across the ocean, Liam's phone buzzed with Emma's name flashing across the screen. He glanced at it, jaw tight, before setting it down on the table. Beside him, the blonde woman laughed softly, brushing her hair back. "You should answer," she teased, though her eyes searched his face. Liam muttered, "It'll only turn into a fight." The words tasted bitter, yet he chose silence. Emma's devotion, her sleepless nights, her waiting, lay on the other end of that ringing phone, but he turned away. For her, he was the center of a world. For him, she was becoming an obligation. And in that dim room, he let her love rot while he clung to comfort with another. Emma paced her room, phone clutched tight, whispering, "I gave him everything. Why wasn't it enough?" She remembered staying awake through exams to talk with him, skipping sleep, mailing gifts across oceans, defending him when her family called her foolish. Each sacrifice replayed now as a cruel joke. In the window's reflection, she saw hollow eyes, herself, but not the girl who once believed love could outlast distance. "I wasn't waiting for love," she whispered to her reflection. "I was waiting for betrayal." The truth wasn't a shadow anymore. It was standing in front of her, and she couldn't turn away. Sarah's voice cut sharply through Emma's phone. "Emma, this isn't love, it's punishment." Emma let silence linger, clutching her blanket tighter. Sarah's tone softened. "He's showing you who he is. Believe him." Emma's throat closed as she whispered, "Then why can't I let go?" Her chest felt like it was caving in. Letting go wasn't losing Liam, it was losing the girl she had been, the girl who had believed that love could conquer time zones and oceans. Sarah's voice trembled with frustration and care. "Because you love the dream of him, not the man he's become." The words cut deep, because Emma knew they were true. That night Emma typed with trembling fingers, "Do you love her?" She stared at the words, heart pounding like thunder. Every cell screamed for the truth, even if it shattered her. "Please, just tell me," she whispered to the empty room. Her thumb pressed send, and the screen glowed like fire in the darkness. Across the ocean, Liam read the message, shoulders stiffening. The blonde woman leaned closer, her smile fading as she noticed his silence. Emma sat frozen, staring at her phone, waiting for the truth to arrive like a bullet. The question wasn't floating anymore. It was a blade pressed to both of their hearts, demanding an answer. Emma's phone buzzed with a new message. Her pulse spiked as she opened it. "We need to talk." Her lips parted in disbelief. "That's it? After everything?" she whispered. She dialed instantly, voice trembling when he picked up. "Liam, tell me the truth." On the other end, silence stretched until it broke with his voice low and heavy. "Emma, I didn't mean for this to happen." Her breath caught like glass in her throat. "So it's true. She's real." He said nothing, and that silence became her confirmation. Rage and grief twisted together as she cried, "I gave you my nights, my dreams, my life, and you gave me betrayal." Her voice cracked, but the weight of her years with him poured out like fire. Liam sat slumped in his chair, phone pressed to his ear. His voice wavered. "Emma, please. I didn't want to hurt you." She let out a bitter laugh through tears. "But you did. Every unanswered call, every excuse. It was her, wasn't it?" He sighed heavily. "I was lonely. The distance, it broke me." Her heart convulsed. "Broke you? I broke myself for you. I lost sleep, ignored family, reshaped my life for your world. I carried us both, Liam." His tone faltered. "I still love you." Emma's voice rose in fury. "No, you love convenience. You loved me when it was easy. When it got hard, you found someone else to fill the silence." His silence after that cut deeper than words could. Emma stood and began pacing, voice sharp with fury and pain. Do you know what it feels like to wait every single night? To stare at the phone until dawn? To beg for scraps of attention and call it love? Liam's voice cracked. Emma, I never asked. She cut him off with a scream. You didn't have to ask. I gave because I believed. Because you told me distance was temporary, that I was worth it. And now you're telling me I wasn't enough. Her chest rose and fell in ragged breaths. Softer, broken, she whispered. Was I not enough, Liam? Tell me. The silence hung heavy, choking the air between them. His lack of words screamed louder than any confession. Finally, Liam's voice came, fragile and raw. I didn't choose her over you. I just stopped choosing us. Emma froze, the words slicing through her. She collapsed to the floor, pressing her forehead to her knees. Do you hear yourself? I fought for us every day. And you let me drown. His voice shook. I didn't know how to hold on anymore. She whispered, voice muffled through sobs. So you let go of me instead. The distance wasn't oceans now. It was a grave he had buried her in. Liam's voice softened, almost breaking. Emma, I'm sorry. She let out a bitter, cracked laugh. Sorry doesn't erase betrayal. Sorry doesn't rebuild what you burned to ashes. His words fell useless into the void. Emma's tears slowed, her voice steadier now though her heart quaked. You killed us, Liam. With silence, with lies, with her. His voice cracked with desperation. Please don't end it like this. Her eyes hardened as fresh tears traced down. You ended it when you stopped choosing me. Don't you dare blame me for this. Her trembling thumb hovered over the screen. She whispered, goodbye. The word felt like a blade slicing through her chest. She ended the call, the silence that followed roaring like thunder. For years she had waited, hoped, begged for love. Tonight, she chose the silence instead. Not oceans, not distance, not time. Betrayal had ended them, and now it was over. The night ended in silence, heavier than screams. Emma sat on the floor, phone abandoned beside her. She whispered, it's over, but the words felt foreign, like they belonged to someone else. Her body trembled with exhaustion, yet her mind replayed his voice again and again. The love she thought would survive oceans had drowned in lies. She curled into herself, pulling the blanket over her shoulders, realizing there was no message coming to save her this time. Her tears slowed, leaving only emptiness. The silence wasn't waiting anymore. It was finality, and it pressed down on her until she couldn't breathe. Morning light crept into the room, but Emma's eyes were swollen from tears. She sat at her desk, staring at the phone screen, empty, blank, silent. She whispered, I waited every night, for nothing. Her reflection in the dark screen showed a woman who had given everything and received nothing in return. She thought of Sarah's words, of her mother's warnings, of all the signs she ignored. The silence wasn't cruel anymore. It was clear. He had made his choice. Now she had to make hers. But the thought of moving forward felt like walking on shattered glass barefoot. She opened a drawer filled with letters she had written to Liam. Notes never sent, promises never read. Her fingers shook as she whispered, this was my heart in paper and ink. She stared at the stack, every word proof of her devotion. Every page a relic of love now gone. Slowly, she pressed them back into the drawer and shut it. Her chest ached, but she knew the truth. Those words no longer belonged to her future. For the first time, she admitted to herself, I loved him more than he loved me. And saying it, even in a whisper, was both a wound and a release. That afternoon, Sarah came by. She hugged Emma tightly, holding her like she had been waiting for this moment. You don't need him to be whole, Sarah whispered. Emma's tears returned, softer now. But I don't know who I am without him. Sarah pulled back, meeting her eyes. Then it's time to find out. Emma nodded weakly, realizing this was the first moment she hadn't been waiting for Liam. It hurt, but there was a flicker of something else beneath the grief. A fragile spark of freedom she had forgotten she could feel. As night fell again, Emma sat by the window, staring at the quiet city below. She whispered, "I thought love meant holding on. Maybe it means letting go." The ache in her chest was still raw, but her tears had run dry. For the first time, she didn't clutch her phone or wait for its glow. She let it rest on the table, untouched. The silence was still there, but now it wasn't just pain. It was space. Space for healing, space for something new, even if she couldn't see it yet. She breathed deeply, fragile but alive, knowing tomorrow would come whether he did or not. The apartment was silent except for the faint hum of the city outside. Emma walked slowly across the room, every step heavy, her bare feet brushing against the cold floor. Her phone sat abandoned on the table, its screen black, as if mocking her. She paused, staring at it with a hollow ache in her chest. "You don't live here anymore," she whispered into the emptiness, her voice trembling but firm. The words didn't feel like hers yet. They felt borrowed, fragile, but they hung in the air like a fragile shield. She opened the window, letting the cool night breeze cut through the stale air of heartbreak. For the first time, she wasn't waiting for the glow of a screen to save her. She was simply breathing, carrying the ache alone. It wasn't closure. It wasn't healing. It was survival. The love she once carried felt like shards inside her, but she understood now that no message would piece them back together. Endings weren't grand or loud. Sometimes they came as silence, and that silence was all she had left. Miles away, Liam sat in his apartment with the glow of the television flickering against his tired face. The blonde woman sat beside him, scrolling casually on her phone, unaware of the storm inside him. His own phone rested in his palm, Emma's name no longer lighting it up. He whispered under his breath. She stopped calling. The words startled even him. They tasted hollow, like a truth he hadn't wanted to face. He remembered Emma's late-night laughter, her soft voice whispering, "You're my forever." His chest tightened with a weight he hadn't allowed himself to feel. He had wanted freedom, wanted the comfort of someone nearby, but now the silence she left behind echoed louder than any argument they had ever shared. The blonde woman nudged him gently, but he didn't respond. His gaze remained on the blank phone screen, realizing that the silence wasn't her punishment, it was his reminder. He had lost not just her presence but the unwavering faith she once carried in him, and that loss hollowed him more than he dared admit. Back in her bedroom, Emma sat on the edge of her bed, holding a framed photograph of her and Liam from years before. Her thumb brushed across his frozen smile, the glass cool against her skin. She whispered, "I waited for your words every night." The memory of who he had been, the man who promised oceans meant nothing, who said, "Well, beat the distance," hurt far more than the truth of who he had become. Slowly, she placed the frame on the nightstand, her breath shaky. Then, with trembling fingers, she turned it face down. The sound of the frame meeting the wood was small, almost insignificant, yet it felt like burying a part of her soul. She closed her eyes, whispering, "I'll never beg for silence again." The words weren't a declaration of strength, not yet. They were fragile, broken, but they marked the beginning of something she hadn't felt in weeks: release. Her tears didn't stop, but beneath them was a faint spark of something that might one day grow into freedom. The next afternoon, Emma sat across from Sarah at a cafe, sunlight streaming through wide windows, painting the table in warm light. Sarah studied her closely, noticing the tired eyes but also something different, an unfamiliar stillness. "You look different," Sarah said softly, stirring her coffee. Emma gave a faint smile, fragile but real. "Because I'm not waiting anymore." Her phone sat zipped inside her bag, hidden from view for the first time in years. The ache hadn't vanished, but it no longer held her hostage. Sarah reached across the table, placing her hand gently over Emma's. "You'll be okay," she whispered. Emma nodded, her smile trembling but determined. "I will." The moment was simple, quiet, yet it carried the weight of survival. The sunlight felt warmer, the air felt lighter, and for the first time Emma allowed herself to imagine a life not built around someone else's absence. That night, Emma sat once more by her bedroom window, the city glowing faintly below. Her phone buzzed suddenly on the table beside her, and her heart skipped as Liam's name lit up the screen. For a moment, everything inside her screamed to reach for it, to hear his voice, to hold on to what little was left. But she didn't move. She watched the screen ring, vibrating with urgency, until it dinned back to silence. Her chest rose and fell, heavy but steady. She whispered, "This silence is mine now." For years, she had surrendered her nights to waiting, to begging, to hoping for words that only hurt. Tonight, she chose the opposite. She chose nothing. And in that choice, she found something more powerful than his love, her freedom. The final blow wasn't his betrayal anymore. It was her refusal to answer. When the phone went dark, she knew she would never pick it up again. The scar was carved, deep and permanent, but it belonged to her, not him.